In today's video, I'm going to get a little bit personal and I'm going to tell you why I switched to the carnivore diet and I've never looked back. So, to really set the stage here, I have to explain a little bit about my history, myself. Um, First thing is, in high school, I was pretty thin, but after high school, slowly I started to gain weight and pretty much the majority of my adult life, I've been very overweight. Typically, well over 300 pounds. I'm 6'4", but I would say that I probably was at least 330 for a good 15 years or so of my life. Before that, I was still fairly overweight, but I was more like around 300. But I'd say about the last 15 years before carnivore, for the most part, I was at least 330 pounds. That takes me to 2017. I found a diet that I started doing that I found online. And basically, it had to do a lot with restricting the calories that you were eating. So you weren't eating as much food. In terms of carbs, it was more like healthy type of carbs, as it was explained, like whole carbs, I guess, whole food type of carbs, right? Not like your processed foods. Um, but it was really low fat and kind of low carb, to be honest. So there just wasn't a whole lot of food. And that you can imagine, with not eating a lot, I did lose a lot of weight. So I got down, I think, to around 250 pounds or so. And I was fairly thin. And that all happened like within about 9 months or so. The problem was that because I hadn't been eating a lot, I was very nutrient deficient. I would get injured easily. If I worked out, I would get injured fairly easily. I just didn't have a lot of energy, tired a lot. I know that kind of goes hand in hand with not having energy, but just those types of things were happening, and I just couldn't sustain it. So I started eating bad again, eating a lot of food, and gained the weight back. And then, so this goes now about another 6 months or so after I had pretty much gained the weight back. This is late 2018. I got diagnosed with AFib, which is a condition where your heart starts beating irregularly and usually much faster than it should and so forth. So your heart rate goes up. There's a risk of stroke and that kind of stuff with it. So I was put on medication and I had a few different times over the next, like, I don't know, I guess 4 or 5 years or so, where I was in the emergency room and in the hospital. One time they had to actually shock my heart back into rhythm because I wasn't going back into rhythm normally. And that was, something that was a pretty big concern for me. But it wasn't just that, right? Like I had said, I gained all the weight back. At this point, I was upwards of 360, probably close to 370 pounds. Um, just didn't have any energy. Had some minor depression. Never wanted to do anything. Had all kinds of joint pain and uh, back pain. I snored all the time. Just lots of things that I'm probably even missing right now, right? So that took me into 2022, and I first started looking at the keto diet, and I went keto for about 3 months. Didn't see a whole lot of change other than that I did lose a little bit of weight, like 10 to 15 pounds or something like that, but it wasn't a lot. But I didn't have any relief from like joint pain. I had arthritis. I forgot to mention that before. I had arthritis in my big toes. Didn't see any change there or anything. And then at that point, it was July of 2022. And I said, you know what? I've been reading up on this. I'm going to go to the carnivore diet. And from there, things have just changed tremendously for me. And within the first month or so, I realized that my joint pain was pretty much gone. And same thing with the arthritis in the big toes. I didn't have any issues anymore in the big toes. within the first couple of months, I noticed there was no more back pain. I was sleeping through the night without any problems. Before, I couldn't even sleep through the whole night because I'd had so much back pain. So I didn't have that issue anymore. I wasn't snoring anymore. And another thing I noticed within really the first month was that I was no longer having these AFib episodes where I would go into AFib and then maybe a couple hours later I'd go out of it. That was not happening anymore. I just wasn't going into AFib anymore. Within the first 3 months, I had lost quite a bit of weight. I think I lost about 60 pounds or so. And in the first year of doing carnivore, I lost 85 pounds. It's for the most part, I'm in that same range with the weight loss. I've had a few things here and there that have happened where I've kind of stalled or gained a little bit of weight. That this last year during the holidays is one example. I gained about 15 pounds in like a 2 to 3 week period at Christmas time where I kind of fell off the wagon and wasn't eating very healthy and so forth. I gotten back on track here, and over the last couple of months, I've lost those 15 pounds back again. So, those are examples of some things that I've done in the last year and a half here where I haven't really seen a whole lot of weight loss. But I will say in that time period that there has been some fat loss that I didn't have before. So more, fat loss that has happened, even though the weight hasn't really changed. So there's probably been some kind of changes with my body in terms of building a little bit more muscle as well. But that's the big thing for me. It's been completely life changing. And you don't realize until you do the carnivore diet just how life changing it can be and just how much better you feel. Like you can go to a whole foods diet where you're still eating like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, and you're going to feel better than you were when you were eating a lot of processed foods, right? But the difference with then just going to carnivore and not eating any plant-based food at all is just incredible. How much better you feel, how much energy you have. I mean, it's just incredible. And then also, your mood changes. Like, uh, you're a happier person. You're a calmer person. You don't get upset as easily as you used to, and things like that. All those things changed for me. And let's not forget, I don't have any joint pain anymore. The arthritis in my big toes is gone. There's no, there's no, can't think of the right word, but there's no evidence of the arthritis in those toes anymore. They're gone. It's gone. When I do hurt myself, I recover fairly quickly. These are all big things for me. I don't snore anymore. I stopped snoring, I think, within the first month. My wife noticed something else. And I never knew about this really, but my son has been more recently diagnosed with having gluten issues. I can't think of the exact name of what they call it now. But anyway, so he has to be gluten free. And my wife mentioned something about these red bumps that you can get that can have to do with that celiac disease. That's what it's called. And she talked about how these red bumps sometimes are a sign of celiac disease. And she's like, you probably had that kind of a gluten problem too, because you used to always have those red bumps. And she's like, wait a minute though, look at your arms. You don't have any red bumps anymore. And I have no idea when that happened. I've been carnivore for 2.5 years now, but yeah, I don't have the little red bumps anymore. So I probably had a gluten issue and didn't really know it. But that's just another example of, going to a carnivore diet, of how things are so much better for you and how it, don't want to necessarily say fixes, but it really heals your body and improves so many different things. Your mental clarity is so much better. I've seen other people out there that talk about they've had different issues with their eyesight that has gotten better. Just so many different things that can be improved by the carnivore diet. And I've seen so many improvements as well. So I talked about the AFib. Let me talk about that again really quick. I haven't had an episode in over 2.5 years. A little over a year ago, my cardiologist took me off the medication that I was on for it. So no longer have blood thinner or anything like that for it. And, things have been going great. And I go back once a year now at this point just to kind of check things out, make sure everything's going good. I had a stress test this last fall that went really well. And it's just amazing how just changing my diet fixed my AFib. And I'm not saying that that's going to work for everybody. It might help you some, it might not help. I don't know. But for me, it has definitely helped. For me, it was something with the carbs that I was eating, the processed food, the glucose in my body, and so forth, that was spiking. Some sort of a reaction to where my signals were getting messed up from my heart. And that was causing my AFib. And it's no longer an issue for me. So, you know, as I look back, like these last 2.5 years, it's just been amazing the changes that have happened. I'm so glad that I found the carnivore diet. And I can tell you that I'm not going to switch from it. And I know that there are people out there that say, well, you might be doing long-term damage to your health, to your heart or whatever. And well, I don't know. I mean, I, I'm 51 years old. I'm just put it out there, so I'm over 50, and, um, everything I've seen has actually improved, especially with my heart and my conditioning and so forth. And as bad as I was back 2.5 years ago, where I mean, I was just sitting on that couch and never really doing anything and just always in pain. That if maybe I am going to, have some health issues long term because of doing the carnivore diet, um, I kind of feel like it's worth it for me because I'm actually living a good life right now, a good quality life that I wasn't 2.5 years ago. And I still wouldn't be if I didn't go to the carnivore diet. And I also don't really believe that the carnivore diet is bad for you. It really makes no sense to me that eating all this meat is a bad thing when that is what we did before the agricultural revolution and everything else that has happened, right? It just makes no sense. There's been a lot of things that have come out about cover ups back in the 60s with the sugar industry and blaming saturated fat and payoffs that happened. You can look that stuff up online. So I really, myself, I don't believe that this way of eating is bad for you, especially when everybody that you talk to has seen so many health improvements. And I know myself, I have seen a bunch of health improvements with eating this way. And, the quality of life has been so much better. Like, I'm, you know, I don't think that there is anything that is going to make me change my mind about eating this way because the quality of life is so much better and I feel so much healthier and so much better. And I feel like I have a life that I didn't have before that.